Because there's kind of this theory, I feel like with you, for some people that don't know, that you got into like the Lieutenant Dan character, right? And you got into it so much that you were just like, I am now, this is like my life calling.
It's kind of
is that kind of what happened, or is that? But that
no, I mean, I have Vietnam veterans in my family. I was playing a Vietnam veteran, Lieutenant Dan, and so prior to playing him, I was like keyed up and tuned up to that because with Vietnam veterans in my family, I was in high school. I was a senior in high school when combat operations ended in Vietnam.
Wow.
In 1973. So I remember people coming home. And then I met my wife, and she introduced me to her two brothers who served. Her sister's husband served in Vietnam. So I was kind of tuned up to what was going on with our Vietnam veterans, had a lot of compassion for them and what happened when they came home. You know, they were not treated well at all. It was a difficult time for our country, difficult time to be a soldier. And then when Lieutenant Dan came around, I had the opportunity to audition for it. I very much wanted to get that part. I was lucky to get it. And then I just started. I remember getting invited to the Disabled American Veterans Organization convention about 5 or 6 weeks after Forrest Gump came out. And they wanted to give me an award for playing a wounded veteran. And this was an organization that at that time represented 1.5 million wounded veterans going back to World War II, all the way up to the Gulf War. Because this is 94. And I walk out on the stage, get introduced, and I walk out on the stage. There, yeah, that's a picture of it. And they gave me their National Commander's Award. And the guy there, Richard Marbs, he's got one leg. He's missing one leg up to his hip. And he's standing on crutches there. And I looked out into the audience, and I saw 2,000 wounded veterans out there in the crowd.
Wow.
And it was very, very moving. I mean,
I can feel it right now. It's moving to me to even imagine that somebody saw that.
And it was very impactful, and that started me supporting our wounded, going back to that time. And then September 11th happened, and I just turned it into a full-time mission.
Wow.
Yeah, it was there. I've met a lot of interesting people over the years. I started going on USO tours in 2003. I started going to the bases. Qatar was one of the first bases I went to on my first overseas U.S. tour.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful base.
Yeah, we were there. We were in Iraq. We were in Kuwait. That was a big tour that Kid Rock was on, and Leanne Womack was on that tour.
Oh, yeah.
Robert De Niro was on the tour. I mean, Paul Rodriguez, comedians were on the tour. It was there were a lot of entertainers. It was called Project Salute, and that's some footage there from that very first trip.
That's amazing.
Overseas to Iraq and Kuwait. This is me going out to a place called Camp Udari, which was right on the Iraq-Kuwait border, and I saw thousands of troops that day, and it was very impactful to go out there, see these people in the war zones, see what they were doing, shake hands with them. I wanted to talk to everybody, and I didn't have time because there were so many people lined up to see us. But we entertained. I didn't do anything except I'm Lieutenant Dan and I'm waving to everybody and shaking hands and taking pictures. But Kid Rock put on a show.
For sure, yeah. Bob's been in here. Bob's ridiculous. He lives across town. He's one of a kind.
Good guy. We've known each other since that.
Oh, you have?
That trip.
He's got a big heart, dude. He's loves
hilarious. Our military, really.
Yeah,
really. Yeah.
We spent a good bit of time together. He's a special guy. What's something? Because you just had you had so many kind of iconic roles, and we're in so many films that really touch people. The Green Mile, I remember, Of Mice and Men. That's crazy, dude.
Did you see that in high school?
Yeah, bro. I remember, dude. You know how many people even on the spectrum were not allowed to have a pet after that movie? Do you know how many of
You
my
can't have a dog.
oh, dude, you know how many of my neighbors got their pets taken away after that film?
I never thought of that.
Oh, dude, it was it took like a month to get them back for some of us.
That's hilarious.
But that just so many special roles. But then it feels like you really kind of found this like a role that really like almost a bigger role in this space of service, and of feeling like even just showing up somewhere and giving of yourself,
With the veterans in my family, and especially the Vietnam veterans, I have World War II and World War I on my side of the family, Korea era. My dad was in the Navy during Korea. My grandfather in World War I. My two uncles in World War II. But it was when I met the Vietnam veterans on my wife's side of the family, and that was very impactful because they had not been treated well, and I started to have a lot of compassion for them and feel very, very badly. So when we were attacked on September 11th, and our young men and women started raising their hand and joining the military and going off to Afghanistan and Iraq, and I wanted to do something to support them. I just felt a lot of compassion for them, having veterans in my own family and having seen what happened to our Vietnam veterans when they went off to war. And it was starting to, if you recall, the Iraq War was starting to be, the country was starting to divide itself over whether we should be there or not, and all of that. And I didn't want our service members to get caught in the middle of all that. So I just started raising my hand and going out and supporting them where I could. And that led to all these nonprofits that I supported, and then I just started my own.
And that's the Gary Sinise Foundation?
Yeah.
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 How do you stay out of the how do you stay out of the political side of things, right? Because I'm sure sometimes that, like you were saying with Vietnam, it was probably one of the first times that soldiers came back and a lot of people didn't agree with them being there. And it's like, it's not really their fault, right? They're just signing up to protect the freedoms that we have, right? Like my job is freedom of speech. My job doesn't even exist if it's not for somebody out there protecting it, right?
You're absolutely right.
But so how do you stay out of that? Is that tough sometimes to stay out of the political side of it and just focus on the boots on the ground? Or do you? Does that make any sense, that question?
I didn't care about that stuff. What I did care about was them feeling kind of a negative thing coming at them from the country. And we were starting to divide at that point. After September 11th, everyone was sort of united, we got smacked on September 11th. That was a real turning point for me towards service in a greater way. But our country was sort of, reeling from that. And remember, we were all in pain. We were all scared. Nobody knew what was going on. We wanted, our troops to go over there and do something, find this bad guy that did that to us. And, everybody was sort of united behind that. As time went on, though, you started to feel like, okay, we don't support George Bush going into Iraq. And I didn't want our troops to get caught in the middle of that. Right. So I just said, what can I do as an entertainer? As somebody that they recognize from the movies, I can go over there and shake hands with them and tell them, hey, we appreciate you. We don't, we don't take what you're doing for granted. Mm. And I started doing that, and then I did it some more and more and more and more. And the more I did it, the more I felt like I was having a positive effect on people that were away from their families, losing friends, getting blown up, ending up in the hospital, multiple limbs amputated, all these terrible things that were happening. And I felt like I was bringing some positive light into their world, which was, a pretty difficult time. I mean, if you're over there and you lose 10 buddies and then you lose your legs, you've got a long way, a long road ahead, and I wanted to help them. I want, the real life Lieutenant Dans, I wanted to help them out, and I wanted to help the families out who were losing loved ones, and I just felt that was a role that I could play, and now it's just a big, big part of life.
Yeah, you were right,
I think so. We can't let our service members get caught in the middle of stuff. If you volunteer to serve your country, what do you volunteer for? To do what they want you to do. You don't have a question, and if they send you into a war zone, you got to go.
Right.
So they're just doing their duty, and I want to support them and help them through the difficulties of going to war and the things that they see and the things that happen to them.